Come on, Professor. I'll drive you home. Sally, you and Bill lock up, will you? Put the money in the safe.
All right.
It's pretty late. You don't mind?
No, I don't mind.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, Bill.
Good night.
Bill, just one number. Please, Bill.
I told you I can't play.
I heard you play this one once, when you thought no one was around.
Wishing will make it so. Just keep on wishing, and care will go.
You don't have to murder it.
Play another one.
It's the only one I know.
I don't believe it.
You don't.
No. And I don't believe you couldn't get yourself a decent job if you really wanted one. Well, I've heard professionals who couldn't play half as well.
I like this job, Sally. I've told you that before. Now leave me alone. Let me get your coat, Sally.
Put the money in here, sister.
I'm sorry, madam, but that matter does not come within the jurisdiction of the district attorney's office. If your husband has run away with another woman, I suggest you call the Bureau of Missing Persons.
Hello, Mac.
Hello, Brains. A little item here might interest you.
Local dishwasher hero kills paper bag bandit. The so-called paper bag bandit, who has harassed merchants in the Salinas area for months, is dead today due to the heroism of a dishwasher who is so modest that he objected to having his picture taken. William H. Jackson, an employee at Happy's Place. Salinas, huh? Paper bag bandit?
It's not him I'm talking about. Take a look at that local hero who was so modest he didn't want his picture taken.
Well, he looks kind of familiar.
He ought to. You prosecuted him for murder first degree.
Richard Kincaid.
Yeah.
He escaped before the trial was over. How long ago was it? 10, 11 years?
12.
12 years. Have you sent out an alarm?
They picked him up in Bakersfield half an hour ago.
It was one of my first big cases. And I'd have won it.
Maybe the DA will assign it to you again.
I think he will. And I'm still going to win it.
The Honorable John Spears, judge presiding. Be seated.
Richard Kincaid. Are you Richard Kincaid?
Yes.
Where's your attorney?
I have no attorney.
Have you any money to hire one or any property?
No.
Then I'll appoint the public defender to represent you. One of his very able deputies is here now, Mr. Paul Bennett.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is your true name Richard Kincaid?
Yeah?
You were accused by the people of the state of California of murdering Daniel J. Bryan on the night of May 8th, 1938. Mr. Bennett, here's a transcript and the information on the case.
Your Honor, I'd like to confer with my chief on this case and ask for time to study it before entering a plea.
Very well. I'll continue the case for 1 week.
Hello, Mr. Kincaid. I'd like you to meet Mr. Knight, head of the public defender's office.
Hello, Mr. Kincaid.
Hello.
We've investigated your statement that you can't afford a lawyer. Apparently, it's true.
It's true, all right.
Mr. Bennett will conduct your case. If you want us to handle it. If you don't, we can't insist.
Do I have to insist? I'm afraid I don't understand the etiquette of this game. Why bother with the trial? Why not sentence me and be done with it?
You know why, Mr. Kincaid? It's not the American way. We don't do things like that in this country.
Oh. What's this nonsense? First the law arrests me. Then it both prosecutes and defends me. Is that the American way?
Don't get us wrong, Kincaid. You think because we're public servants, we're on the side of those other public servants whose job it is to prosecute you. We're not. Public defender's office has as good a record of acquittals as the finest lawyers in private practice. Naturally, Mr. Knight's proud of that record, and so am I.
Gentlemen, I apologize. I hope I don't mar your record.
Now we'll hear your story, shall we? Sit down.
Well, in the first place, I'm not guilty. Now, I know you've heard this before, but it's true. It began right here in Los Angeles on a Saturday night about 9 o'clock. I dropped into a place called Jimmy's Bar for a drink. You wouldn't think a simple thing like that would ruin a man's life, would you? But if I'd have picked any other place, none of this would have happened. Somebody jostled my arm, and I spilled part of my drink on the girl next to me. I apologized, and first thing I knew, I was talking to her and the man with her. A nice young couple. In the casual way you do in bars, they took me along with them, and I met their friends. There were 2 other couples and 1 girl over. Her name was Joan Bryan, and she was very pleasant. Believe it or not, but I didn't notice she was wearing a wedding ring. Then one of the crowd, a guy named Kerry McGuire, suggested we all go up to his home and continue the party there. His wife urged us to, and we all accepted. At Kerry McGuire's house, we were all very gay. I played piano, of course. I nearly made a career of it at one time, and they all seemed to enjoy it.
Great. Am I glad we found you?
Play another farce, Dick.
Yeah, no, you've had enough punishment for one evening. Oh, come on.
He wants to relax a while now.
Sure, let the kid rest. Alice, put on a couple of those Roomba records. I want to show off a couple of steps.
You want to show off, period.
Dick, would you like a drink? Yeah, I'd love one.
Come on.
It was a nice young crowd, plain cut, attractive. I never guessed then how important these people were going to be in my life. Very soon. There were 3 couples, all different. The first was Kerry and Alice McGuire. Kerry was a natural-born host and natural-born salesman. His wife, Alice, was just the kind that men like that usually marry. Small, pretty, very gentle. Apparently a little overwhelmed with this wonderful guy had actually married her. The other 2 couples weren't married, just going together. The one I called the quiet ones. Even when they rumbled, it looked more like waltzing. The man, Walter Long, was slender and serious, in business for himself. He owned a small machine shop. The girl, Rolene Wood, she looked like she might write poetry. I called the other couple the collegians. Brick Appleby was a big, friendly bear of a man who'd played college football. He was now doing very well as a junior executive of a large firm. Pat Sheldon was the perfect campus queen to his campus hero. At last, but certainly not least, there was Joan Bryan, all by herself. Maybe I ought to do something about that. Shall we dance?
Yes, I'd love to.
Dan, come on in.
How are you?
Give me your hat and coat. We're having a little party here. Surprise, everybody. Dan's here. He got back sooner than he thought.
Hi, Dan. Welcome home.
Dan, you know everybody except, except the guy dancing with your wife.
Dan, this is a surprise. How did you know where to find us?
Oh, I just took a chance.
Dan, this is Dick Kincaid. Dick, my husband.
Dick's an old friend. We met him 2 hours ago. But he's made a great hit with everybody.
So I see.
Hiya, Dan.
Hello. You go on dancing. I'm going to get a drink.
Right this way.
I guess it'll make such a hit with him.
Oh, he gets that way sometimes. Doesn't mean anything. Come on, let's dance.
All right. About an hour later, I went to the bedroom to get my coat. Suddenly, I heard the door close behind me. I looked up, and there was Dan Bryan. I knew right away that he was drunk and that he hated me.
Dick Kincaid, eh?
That's the name.
I've got just one thing to say to you, Kincaid. Stay away from my wife.
Okay.
Maybe you think I'm a fool. Maybe you think I haven't known for a long time that she's been seeing somebody else.
Has she? It wasn't me. I never saw her before tonight.
Who do you think you're kidding? I heard her on the phone making a date for tonight at Jimmy's bar. I went there, and who did she come out with but you?
Well, I just met her with a few of her friends. Why don't you ask them?
You're lying.
You're drunk. Now you get out of my way. I'm going home.
Not till I get finished with you, you're not.
What's going on in here? Somebody getting killed?
Almost. He pulled a gun on me. I took it away from him.
Dan, what on earth?
Shut up. Trying to protect your lover, are you?
Dan.
Excuse me. I think I'll go home. It's been nice meeting most of you.
Dan, wait a minute. What's
It's a good thing your friends are here, Brian. I'd kill you. It was just the sort of thing you say when you're mad, that's all. But later that night, I learned this afterward. Joan Bryan was awakened, or so she said, by the sound of a pistol shot in the room where her husband was sleeping. She went in to see what had happened. The first thing she noticed was that the window was open. She went over to Dan. He was dead, shot through the heart. When the police arrived, they found his gun on the floor. The gun I'd taken from him early in the evening. It had his fingerprints on it and it had mine. No one else's. They said it couldn't have been suicide, so that left only one alternative, me.
Where were you at the time?
Taking a walk, believe it or not. When I can't sleep, I sometimes take a walk to get sleepy. The elevator boy at my apartment saw me go out, and he saw me come back. The times fitted the time to the murder.
I suppose your newfound friends all testified at the trial.
Yes. All 7 of them. Rolling Wood.
No, I never saw him before that night he spilled the drink on my sleeve. He might have done it on purpose for all I know.
Joan Bryan.
I've never had a lover. Dan was always jealous over trifles.
Carrie McGuire.
Yes, Dan was always very jealous and hot-tempered. He seemed very sore when he came in that evening.
Alice McGuire.
And then Dan shouted to Joan, trying to protect your lover, are you? And then he hit him.
Brick Appleby.
Well, and Kincaid said to Dan while they were holding him, "It's a good thing your friends are here, Brian, or I'd kill you."
Pat Sheldon.
The look on his face was murderous. That's all you could call him.
And Walter Long.
He said he pulled a gun on me and I took it away from him. I thought he meant he put it in his pocket.
They all agreed on that. They thought I had taken the gun with me. It was too bad that at the time I hadn't mentioned throwing it on the bed. Because with that and my threat, as they called it, and my fingerprints on the gun, the prosecutor had a perfect case. He knew it. The jury knew it, and I knew it. It was a death sentence. I knew I didn't have a chance. And then, when I was desperate, a chance to escape was shoved right in my face. It was near the end of the trial, and the guard was taking me back to jail, when suddenly he began to act very strange. He was having an attack of some kind. I tried to help him, but there was nothing I could do. And then, well, I acted on instinct. I got those handcuffs off, and I started out of there. That night, I caught a freight train out of town. I was lucky.
And after that?
I wasn't so lucky. I took one cheap, meaningless job after another. Anything I could find. Farm work, migratory labor, anything. Then one night when I was working as a dishwasher, a bandit took a shot at me. I got my pictures in the papers. That was it.
Yes, we got the story on that bandit. You did a good job there.
We'll enter a plea of not guilty. But it's not going to be easy to prove your story.
Should I start making plans to escape again?
Oh, no, don't do that. I want to talk this over with Mr. Bennett. And we'll see you again very soon.
As I said before, gentlemen, I hope I don't mar your record.
Well, Paul, what do you think?
Same as you. That story of his, he tells it well, but no jury would ever believe it.
Well, he certainly makes a good impression.
Yes, there's a lot in his favor. He's led an honest life ever since his escape, and that couldn't have been easy. The owner of the cafe trusted him, went out and left money in the till. That business with the stick-up man, he was a real hero there.
If he hadn't been a hero, he wouldn't have been caught. Let's go over and talk to the district attorney. Maybe he'll accept a different plea.
All right.
Visitor? Hello, Sally.
Hello, Bill.
Dick.
Dick. I had to come to tell you that I know you're innocent.
Thank you, Sally. That means a lot to me.
I've been talking to a lawyer about your case.
You have? So have I.
Oh, well, I thought you probably didn't have any money.
I don't?
Well, then, how could you...
How could I get a lawyer? Well, how could you?
Oh, well, I have a little money saved up. About $500. And Dick, he'll take your case. And he's good, too. Very good.
He is?
Yes, he's very good.
Sally, do you know why I was so mean to you that time in Salinas?
Oh, you weren't mean. You were just being kind. Why, you couldn't even tell me your real name, so naturally
Sally, look at me. I was mean to you because I was weak and selfish. I didn't have the strength to go away and leave you as I should. Forget. Oh. Sally, this is Mr. Bennett from the Public Defender's Office. Miss Clark.
How do you do, Miss Clark? I have some pretty important news.
No, stay here. I want you to hear it, too.
All right. Mr. Knight and I have just been to the district attorney's office. We made a very strong plea about your good record. It wasn't easy to talk to in your particular case, but he finally made us an offer.
He did? What was it?
He'll accept a plea of manslaughter. That'll carry only a moderate sentence. You'll probably be out on parole in a very few years.
What if I don't accept his offer?
Then he'll go after you for first-degree murder. And he'll go after you hard.
Do you think he'll get me?
He might. I'll do my very best for you, but I might lose. You'll have to face that.
Yeah, have to face that.
There's no telling what a jury will do. If they find you guilty, well, they may recommend mercy. That's a life sentence. If they don't, it's death.
Oh, Dick, you can't take the chance. You can't. Oh, Dick, what's a few years?
You'd wait those years, wouldn't you? Wait for a middle-aged man who has to start his life over again? A jailbird, a murderer?
Oh, don't talk like that. You'd be free, and that's all that matters.
No, Sally, your life matters, too.
Oh, Dick, you've got to take his offer.
No, Sally. I run away too long. Help me to take the big chance. I'm innocent, Mr. Bennett. You've got to prove it.
Okay. We'll do our best. Goodbye, Miss Clark.
Hello, son.
Hello, Pop.
Haven't seen you in a dog's age. Been keeping you busy?
Too busy. Watch out for that thumb.
Which thumb? What's on your mind, son?
I need your help on a case, Pop. I've never asked you before, but I am now.
Well, how can I be of any help? I'm a retired cop, not a lawyer.
You can help me find 7 witnesses.
7?
Yeah, in this case, it's important. There's a man's life at stake, and we're stuck for time. The DA is pressing for an early trial. Oh, he doesn't need witnesses. He's got their testimony on paper just the way he wants it from a previous trial. Oh, sure, he's got to try to produce them, but that's all he's got to do, try. I've got to find those people, and I've got to get new evidence. It's the man's only chance. And I need your help.
What's the matter with your own investigators?
We've only got 2, and they're both up to the necks in other cases. Oh, I know, we should have more, but we can't get them until the county gives us a larger budget.
Yeah, it's tough, all right.
You help me, Pop?
You know how I feel, son. I spent 30 years chasing crooks and murderers and seeing too many of them set free by smart lawyers.
Yeah, I know, but sometimes those men are innocent. 1 out of every 10 men accused is innocent.
And this one is innocent, of course?
Strictly between you and me, Pop. At times, I'm sure he's guilty. But I also know this. If he was rich, he'd have the biggest lawyers in town working for him. Well, it's my job to see that a poor guy like this gets just a square deal, guilty or not guilty.
Son, I'll help you on one condition.
What's that?
That when this case is finished, you go back to work for the district attorney.
Look, Pop, I've found my work. And it's not with the district attorney. Don't worry, I'll get help somewhere.
Paul. Forget what I just said.
Okay, Pop.
I've been sitting around too long. I want to work off a little fat.
Well, there seems to be no Carey or Alice McGuire, Joan Bryan, Rolene Wood, or Patricia Sheldon in these telephone books. On the other hand, there are 14 Walter Longs and a Burnell Appleby who lives in Long Beach.
Burnell? There can't be more than one of him.
That's right. Let's call on him. Maybe he can give us a lead on the others.
And maybe you won't need my valuable services after all.
I doubt that. Bookbinding, huh? College athlete, rising young executive with a big firm.
He rose right to the bottom. What's that smell?
Leather and glue.
No, something cooking. Indian curry.
Hello. Can I help you?
We'd like to talk to you, Mr. Appleby. It'll take a little time. If your wife has dinner ready, we can come back later.
I haven't any wife, and I'm in no hurry for dinner. What's on your mind?
I'm Paul Bennett from the Public Defender's Office. This is my father who's helping me.
How do you do?
I'd like to talk to you about Richard Kincaid. You may remember you were a witness at his trial.
Kincaid? Oh, yes, the fellow who killed Dan Bryan. But he escaped.
He's been found recently. He's going to stand trial again very soon. But I don't think he killed Dan Bryan.
Oh? This is very interesting. Let's go in the back room where we can sit down.
Fine.
Better watch your step back here. It's a little crowded. So you think Kincaid is innocent? Well, who do you think did it then?
I don't know. That's why I want to get a complete picture of what happened that night.
Well, I'll help you all I can. I told everything I knew at the trial.
Could you add anything at all to that testimony?
No, I'm afraid not.
Has anything happened in the years since the trial that might give us a new slant in the case?
No, I can't think of anything.
Kincaid said he threw Dan Bryan's gun on the bed. Are you sure you didn't see it there?
No, I didn't. I'm sorry.
Well, maybe somebody else did. Can you tell me about your friends who were there that night? What's become of them?
I can only tell you about one of them. I lost track of the others years ago.
And that one?
That one was Pat Sheldon. We were very much in love and became engaged in 1940. Well, before we had a chance to get married, I was drafted. One of the first. I didn't get out for 5 years. I was wounded at Anzio and hospitalized for months, with no idea what went on. As soon as I got out of it, I found that there hadn't been any letters from her for a long time. As soon as I got home, I looked her up. I found her.
Where?
In the cemetery. She had died of pneumonia while I was in the hospital.
Let me see those photos, will you, son? She sure was a beautiful girl.
Is that a picture of Pat?
Yeah. Would you like to have it?
Thanks, sir. It wouldn't do any good, you know. I'm blind.
Five local residents drop out of sight. No police records, no nothing. 14 Walter Longs, but none the right one. Come on, Pop, we need a hunch. What am I not paying you for?
I'll give you a hunch. Skid Row.
Skid Row? You mean we're going to find them 6 blocks from here?
I mean, it's a wonderful place to look for information. Guys who want 2 bits for a drink. It's surprising what a lot of information they have at times.
See, I know a lot of people on Skid Row.
So do I.
Let's give it a try. Do you have those pictures?
Sure.
We'll start at opposite ends and work toward each other.
Right. Look, Joe, you ought to know some of these people.
Yeah, sure. They're all buddies of mine.
Yeah?
Live in Beverly Hills, across the alley from my estate. We play croquet and have a dish of tea every afternoon.
Great. Get the addresses?
Just for that, I ought to have a raise in salary.
It's doubled, and I want another hunch.
Plead him guilty.
Hey, there's Eddie the Elbow. Gets around a lot.
No use, son. I've hit him already.
How long ago?
10 minutes.
Oh, well. Hello, Eddie.
Hello, Mr. Bennett. How's the poor man's mouthpiece?
Fine, thanks, Eddie. Say, I wonder if you'd give me a steer on any of these people.
You want to run him in for something?
You know I never run people in, Eddie. I get them out.
Then why was this ton of law showing me the same rogues gallery?
He's my father. He's helping me.
I'm not running anybody in. I'm retired.
Oh, yeah? Once a cop, always a cop.
Hey, cut it out, Eddie.
Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Bennett. I know you can't help it who your old man is.
That's right.
And I can't help it who my son is either.
How about these pictures? Take a good look. No soap?
Well, there's one in there. Looks a lot different now. But try 142 Aliso Street. Upstairs. In the back.
Good.
Which one?
I ain't no stool pigeon. I'm sorry, Mr. Bennett. But I gotta go someplace where the air's fresher.
Fine lot of friends you got.
Yeah.
What did you do for that splendid fellow? Save him from an arson rap?
What's the matter, Pop? Your backache?
Huh.
Back here. I hear something.
So do I. Mice.
Yeah?
Hello, I'm Paul Bennett from the Public Defender's Office. Can I talk to you for a minute?
What about?
Well, can I come in?
A little late'd help.
Would you mind telling me your name?
Marie.
Here. You live here alone?
No, I live across the hall. I just come in to visit.
Who's this?
A gentleman friend of mine.
What's his name?
Lefty.
Is that all?
That's all I know.
What's the matter?
McGuire, get up.
No, let me. McGuire, listen to me. Listen carefully. Do you remember the Dan Bryan murder case?
Murder case? What murder?
How long will he be like this?
Another day, maybe 2.
Listen to me. You were married, remember?
Married?
Your wife's name was Alice. Do you remember that?
Alice.
What happened to her?
Got a divorce.
When?
Long time ago.
Where is she now? Where is she now?
Last time I heard, some kind of show.
Where? Where?
Oh, the poor fella needs a drink. If he couldn't hear that, he can't hear anything.
Thanks. We'll come back tomorrow when he sobers up.
Give me a nickel.
I ain't got a nickel.
Give me a nickel. Hello. Who? This is Carrie McGuire. That's right, you heard me. Carrie McGuire. Remember? You and I better have a little talk.
Hello. Oh, hello, Pop. Say, is McGuire sobered up yet?
Yeah. We should have taken him with us last night. He went out, came back with some dough, gave some to the Duchess,
Only a few bucks, the chiseler, after all I'd done for him.
and then went out again. Nah, she don't know where he got it. But don't worry, Paul. I'll find him. And this time I'll bring him in drunk or sober.
Okay, Pop, I'm leaving that up to you. I'm on the trail of Alice McGuire. Remember he said she was with some kind of a show? Yeah, that's right. While you cover the saloons, I'll cover the theatrical agencies. Just between you and me, I think I've got the tougher job. Good luck.
I'm not sure, but I've got a vague feeling that she once had something to do with the showbox.
Showbox Theater, huh? Thanks a lot.
Good evening. Come right in. Make yourself at home. I'll be right with you.
It's a wonderful show.
Thank you.
I'm looking for someone that I was sold work to. I wonder if you could help me.
You've come to just the right person. I founded this theater. I know everyone who was ever connected with it.
Her name is Alice McGuire.
Alice McGuire? No, I've never heard the name.
There's a picture of her.
I've never seen her. I'm sorry.
Well, thanks anyway.
Wait a minute. May I see that picture again, please? This looks a little like Peggy Linden.
Peggy Linden?
My assistant.
Oh. I wonder if I could talk to her if she's here.
I'll take you to her. She's back in the shop. I'll be right with you, folks. Peggy, this is Mr. Bennett from the Public Defender's Office. He wants to talk to you for a few minutes. Excuse me, I must get back to my public.
Thank you.
How do you do, Mr. Bennett?
How do you do, Miss Linden? The name is really Alice McGuire, isn't it?
Yes.
I'd like to talk to you, Mrs. McGuire, about your ex-husband, Carey. Do you mind?
Carey? No, I don't mind. Is he all right?
Well, he was yesterday.
How'd he look?
Well,
Been drinking, hadn't he?
yes.
Poor Carey. I tried so hard to help him. Was there a woman with him?
Yes.
Well, it wouldn't be Carey unless there was. But it's really not his fault. He's just so attractive. They just won't leave him alone.
How long has it been since you've seen him?
Oh, nearly 8 years. I was ill for quite a long time, a sort of a nervous breakdown. And when I got well, I looked quite different. So then we were divorced, and I haven't seen him since.
And you took a new name.
Well, I wanted to make a new life. It's really my maiden name. I just dropped the Alice.
Miss Linden, I'm defending a man who's accused of murder, but who I feel is innocent. Richard Kincaid, you may remember the case.
Yes.
He escaped, but he's been found, and there's going to be another trial. Is there anything you could add to what you told earlier?
No. No, I don't think so.
Do you have any idea who else might have killed him?
No.
You didn't see the gun on the bed where Kincaid said he threw it?
No.
I hate to ask you this, but I must. Isn't it possible that Carey might have gotten up later in the night when you were asleep and gone out of the house?
I don't see how he could have without waking me.
Let me ask you this. Dan Bryan seemed awfully sure his wife had a lover. Do you think there might have been something between her and Carey?
There could have been, between him and any pretty woman, but I never suspected Joan.
We're looking back now to 12 years. Do you have any idea who her lover may have been if she had one?
Well, I was never sure, but about a year after the trial, she married Walter Long. Maybe there's no connection.
Walter Long?
Yes.
Where are they now?
Let me see. They moved somewhere out of the city. I never visited them. I'm afraid I don't remember the address.
Will you try to, please? It's very important.
No, it's gone. I may have it on some old slip of paper at home. If I find it, I'll let you know.
Will you do that? And here's my number. My office will always know where to get in touch with me. And will you call me just as soon as possible?
Yes, I will.
Good. And give me your address.
It's 763 Driscoll Avenue. Driscoll Street, that is. Apartment 29.
29. Fine. Thank you very much, Miss Linden. Good night.
Oh, Mr. Bennett. Would you do me a favor? If you should see Carey again, would you give him my very best regards?
Sure. So far, we found 3 of your witnesses. No, 4. Pat Sheldon is dead. Appleby was blinded during the war and runs a bookbinding shop. McGuires were divorced 8 years ago.
Did you get anything out of them?
One interesting thing. A year after her husband was killed, Joan Bryan married Walter Long.
Walter Long. The quiet guy who stumbled around in waltz time. The guy who owned a machine shop. So he was the one. Well, what do you know? Well, that settles it, doesn't it?
Not entirely, no. But it'll help. At least the jury will probably believe you when you say you weren't Joan's lover.
You still don't think I'm innocent, do you?
You say you're innocent, so I assume you are. And I'll fight just as hard for you as I know how.
I know you're innocent.
That, my dear, is fate. Something Mr. Bennett can't be expected to have. Who told you about Walter and Joan? Carrie McGuire?
No, I haven't had a chance to question Carrie yet, but I expect to soon. My very best operator's bringing him in.
Come on, Lefty. Quit guzzling that poison. I'm your friend. I'll take you to where there's some good liquor.
What do you mean, poison?
Poison.
He's right. I've drunk better alcohol out of compasses. Come on, pal, let's go.
Right about here, there's a shortcut over into town. Talking to myself. Doc says I'll be able to use my arm in a couple of days.
I'd probably needed a rest.
Personally, I don't think Packy Collins had anything to do with killing McGuire.
Packy Collins?
He's got a good, legitimate business. Runs a sporting goods shop. He wouldn't get mixed up in anything shady.
Thought this was the only shady thing he wasn't mixed up in. Those goons who killed McGuire, have their bodies been identified?
Uh-huh.
Packy Collins' boys?
Not sure. One of them, Pete Flugel, might have been once. Quit trying to pump me, will you? Whatever the boys from Homicide told me was in strictest confidence. They haven't even called on Collins yet.
It's all right, Pop.
Sheriff's office.
Your friend jumped to a conclusion, I'm afraid. All I said was I worked for the county. I'm from the public defender's office, Paul Bennett.
Nice of you to look in on us, Mr. Defender. Sit down.
I thought maybe you could help me. I'm investigating a murder.
Don't get funny, pal.
I'll be glad to help you all I can, Mr. Defender. Duty of every good citizen. Of course, I'm sort of out of things these days. My business keeps me tied down.
Yes, I can see it's rather demanding.
Listen, wise guy.
Shut up. You get fired out of here, you might need the public defender yourself someday. Just what murder case were you interested in, Mr. Defender?
Well, there are a couple, as a matter of fact. Did you ever hear the Dan Bryan case?
Dan Bryan. Boys, we ever hear the Dan Bryan murder case? When did he get it?
1938.
1938? Well, what do you expect? I didn't come out here till 43.
Oh. Did you ever hear of Carrie McGuire?
Carrie McGuire. Boys, we ever hear of Carrie McGuire?
We never heard of Carrie McGuire. Hello? Who? Paul Bennett? Yeah, just a minute. Anything to oblige the county.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Bennett? Your office gave me this number to call. You made me promise not to waste any time once I found that address. Well, I found it. The address of Walter and Joan Long.
That's great. I'm extremely obliged to you for calling. What is that address?
Well, you remember I told you that they moved out of town after I divorced Carrie? That reminds me, Mr. Bennett. Have you seen Carrie again?
Well, yes, I have.
Well, did you deliver my message?
No, I didn't. I'll explain why when I see you. Now, please, if you'd give me that address you spoke of.
Oh, yes. Yes, the address. It's,
Hello? Hello? Police. This is Bennett, Public Defender's Office. Go up to 763 Driscoll Street, apartment 29, right away. I'll meet you there. There's a woman in trouble.
Everybody gets in trouble.
I heard her yelling for help, and I come a-running. The guy just slugged her, see? Then he run out. I didn't see his face.
Officer, I'm Bennett, Public Defender's Office. How is she?
Well, she's alive. Look out, mister. We gotta go.
Wait.
Won't you sit down?
Thank you.
Well, what can I do for the public defender of Los Angeles County?
I'm afraid this isn't going to be a very happy subject, Mrs. Long. I'm defending Richard Kincaid, and I'd like to ask you some questions, if I may.
Richard Kincaid?
Yes, there's going to be another trial very soon. It was announced in the papers just recently. I thought perhaps you'd seen it.
No, I didn't. Does this mean that Walter and I will have to testify again?
I'm afraid so.
But it's all so unnecessary. We've told all there is to tell. The man's guilty.
No.
What?
He's innocent, I'm sure of it.
Well, of course you have to say that.
No, I'm sure. Now?
Then who did kill Dan?
Of that, I'm not quite so sure yet. Mrs. Long, you and your husband are going to be asked some very personal questions on the witness stand. May I ask some of them now? If I can find out the truth, you may be spared some embarrassment later.
Go ahead. Ask what you like.
Thank you.
You may ask me, too.
Walter, this is Mr. Bennett.
With the public defender's office, I know. Carl's told me. Shall I save you the trouble of asking your embarrassing questions, Mr. Bennett? My wife and I were not in love at the time of Dan Bryan's death. I didn't kill him. Did you, my dear?
No, of course I didn't.
Is there anything else?
Yes.
Well, maybe we'd better take this sitting down.
When did you last see Carrie McGuire?
Carrie McGuire? Oh, about 8 or 9 years ago.
Yes, about that.
I'd hoped to ask your wife this in private, Mr. Long, but now you'll have to hear it, too. Was Carrie ever anything more than a friend to you?
What an insulting question to ask.
Yes, I'm sorry. You care to answer it?
No, of course he wasn't.
Did he ever try to blackmail you?
Certainly not.
Or you?
He did not.
I know these are painful questions, but this is a very ugly affair and getting uglier. McGuire seemed to know something important. The day before yesterday, 2 thugs, apparently acting on orders, murdered him.
What?
Murdered him?
Yes. The day after I tried to talk to him about this case. And that's not all. Yesterday, there was another attempted murder.
Attempted?
This time it was Alice McGuire. A man broke into her apartment and tried to kill her. Fortunately, she'll recover.
Why should anyone try to kill poor Alice?
Someone must have thought she knew what Carrie knew.
Well, don't look at me. I have a perfect alibi. I was in a business conference all day yesterday.
I see. What's that quotation? Times change and we change with them. Especially the witnesses in this case. I found them all now except Rolene Wood. Were you once engaged to her?
No, we were just friends. Do you have any more questions?
Thank you. I'll ask them at the trial. And thank you, Mrs. Long, for your courtesy. Goodbye. No, don't bother. I can find my own way out.
What a terrible business.
Yes.
I have a headache. I'm going to lie down.
Well, Mr. Defender, the trial starts in 2 days. Got your case complete?
I wish I had. Look, Paul, here's another letter in answer to the ad we put in for Rolene Wood. Postmarked Tucson, Arizona. No postage. Had to pay 3 cents.
Was it worth it?
Oh, I don't know. It's the screwiest looking one of the lot.
I'll say it is. Poetry.
Fruit is dead, and yet the leaves are green. I saw the world, and yet I was not seen. My thread is cut, and yet it is not spun. Now I live, and now my life is done. Rolene Wood. What's that under the name?
Well, that's what I was wondering.
MCCC. That looks like a picture and some rocks. A road.
That's it. Picture Rocks Road. I've been in Tucson. There's a road by that name a few miles out of town.
MCCC is a number. 1300. 1300 Picture Rocks Road. It's an address.
It's a kick in the pants. It just proves there's jokers everywhere.
Yeah, but Kincaid said she wrote poetry.
Well, why didn't she write it straight out, whatever she wanted to say?
Maybe there was some good reason. Looks like the same handwriting, only more hurried. Get me a ticket on the next plane to Tucson. Hello, I'd like to talk to Miss Rolene Wood.
Rolene Wood? What do you want to talk to her about?
Well, it's a personal matter. I just got a letter from her.
A letter? Let me see it.
As I said, it's a personal matter. Is she at home?
No, she ain't.
I know more than Apollo, for oft, as he lies sleeping, I behold the stars as mortals war.
Excuse me.
Say, mister, in this part of the country, we don't like folks who shove their way in where they ain't wanted.
I'm sorry, but I've got to talk to Miss Wood.
All right. Go ahead. Talk to her.
Miss Wood, did you send this letter?
Yes, I did.
I've come all the way down here to ask you one question. Do you know anything about the Dan Bryan case?
I know all about it.
You do? Do you know who killed him?
I don't dare talk about it now. We've got to get away. They're holding me.
Now, will you tell me what this is all about?
Who are you, anyway? What do you want?
I'm defending a murder, and I want Miss Wood as a witness.
Oh, no, you don't.
I'm afraid I do. I'm from the Public Defender's Office in Los Angeles. Will you come with me, Miss Wood? Miss Wood.
She ain't no good as a witness. She's crazy.
She's been crazy for years. She was in the state asylum.
Asylum?
We're her guardians. My boy Bart and me. I'm her aunt.
Rolene, look at me. Do you have any idea who killed Dan Bryan? Was it Walter Long? Joan Bryan? Pat Sheldon?
Purnell Appleby? Alice McGuire? Carrie McGuire? Did you do it?
Oh, no, I couldn't have done it.
Why not?
I just couldn't. You can ask Pat Sheldon. We roomed together, you know. If I'd have gone out, she'd have heard me. She's a very light sleeper.
She was. She's dead.
Dead? Oh, no, she couldn't be. Not Pat Sheldon. My best friend. Oh, no, she couldn't be.
Hey, mister, ain't you done enough? You won't get nothing out of her.
Suppose you get out of here and go on back to Los Angeles.
Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. This Honorable Superior Court, Department Number 22, in and out the city and county of Los Angeles is now in session. The Honorable John Spears, Judge presiding. Be seated.
People of the state of California versus Richard Kincaid. Are you ready, counsel?
Yes, Your Honor. We're ready, Your Honor.
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you've all heard the phrase, history repeats itself. 12 years ago, I stood here in the same courtroom prosecuting a certain young man for murder. That young man ran away, afraid to hear the jury's verdict. Today, he sits here again. Not quite so young now, but faced by the same body of evidence, the same witnesses, though they're not so young now either, and some of them are dead. And I stand here again, too, still prosecuting him for the same crime. You see, I don't like people to get away with murder. That man has gotten away with it for 12 years. And frankly, I think that's long enough.
Now, when you picked up your coat from the bed, you could see, of course. The lights were on.
Yes, I could see. Very clearly.
And there was nothing else on the bed at all?
No.
Thank you.
No more questions. Your Honor, that completes the people's case.
It's nearly 4:30. Court will adjourn until 10 o'clock Monday morning. The members of the jury are asked to keep an open mind and not discuss the case with anyone. Court adjourned.
Our turn will come.
Huh?
Oh, I'm terribly sorry. I should have
That's
noticed.
quite all right. Mr. Bennett.
It must be awfully tough having to come all the way in from Long Beach. Why don't you let me give you a ride to the train?
Well, thanks, but I'm not going straight home. I don't get into town very often, and when I do, I like to take flowers to Pat.
Oh.
Perhaps you'd take me to a taxi.
Why don't you let me take you all the way? I'd like to very much, unless you'd rather not.
That'd be very nice.
Fine.
We can go out this way.
Pat must have been a wonderful person.
Very gay person.
Did you have any family?
Just a father, Ulysses Grant Sheldon. Quite a character.
Sure is true. I told Brick Appleby she was dead. Even took him to a grave and said it was hers, and the poor guy asked me to.
Isn't he a lot happier thinking that she died loving him, instead of finding out that she abandoned him, me, and all decency to marry the guy that she did? In case you want to know who she married, it's none of your business.
As it happens, it is my business. So needn't bother. I think I know who she married. Thanks. The prosecutor has told you that history repeats itself. But history never repeats itself exactly. And there's a great deal more to this case today than there was 12 years ago. I know that this court and the attorney for the state are anxious to see justice done. I ask them to bear with me while I bring out some developments that have occurred quite recently in this case.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'd like to call as my first witness Mr. Wallace Bennett.
They were professional killers. They killed Carrie McGuire and they tried to kill me. Their mistake.
I was in the hospital for 5 days. The doctor said I was very lucky that the blow didn't kill me.
1 murder and 2 attempted murders of people vitally connected with this case. I'm going to call a witness now who I think can explain all these events. Mrs. Packy Collins. Please take the witness stand.
Is she pretty?
She's very attractive.
Raise your right hand, place your left hand upon the Bible. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the matter now pending before this court should be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your right name.
Mrs. Packard Collins.
Please be seated.
Pat!
Order in the court. Sit down, please. There will be no demonstration.
What was your name before your marriage?
Patricia Sheldon.
I see. Mrs. Collins, a year or 2 after the murder of Dan Bryan, were you engaged to marry Mr. Burnell Appleby?
Yes.
But before you could marry him, he was drafted.
Yes.
Did you ever know a man named Carrie McGuire?
Quite a few years ago, yes.
Now, between the time Mr. Appleby was drafted and the time you married Mr. Collins, did you and Carrie McGuire become considerably more friendly than before?
No, I did not.
Well, you did see him more frequently, did you not?
Perhaps I did. I was lonesome.
I understand. Now, later, quite recently, in fact, did Carrie McGuire try to blackmail you with a certain piece of knowledge he learned about you during that relationship?
No, he didn't.
Now, Mrs. Collins, listen closely. Did you recently arrange to have 2 men follow Carrie McGuire and kill him?
I certainly did not.
Did you send someone to kill Alice McGuire because you were afraid she may have learned that same certain knowledge from her husband in the past? Perhaps while he was drunk?
I did nothing of the kind.
Now, let's go back a few years. Were you ever jilted by Dan Bryan?
No.
Didn't you and Dan Bryan take out a marriage license in San Bernardino County just 2 months before he married Joan?
Yes, we did.
And that license was never used?
No.
Did you hold any ill feelings? Did you harbor any hatred toward him because it was never used?
No.
Now, let's go back to the night of the murder. You were at the party at Carrie McGuire's house earlier in the evening.
Yes.
You heard the quarrel between Dan Bryan and Richard Kincaid.
Yes, we all heard it.
Now, later, when you got your rap, did you go alone?
Yes.
When you picked up your rap, did you see a pistol on the bed?
No.
You didn't see a pistol? Pick it up very carefully in your gloved hand in order not to leave your fingerprints and put it in your purse?
No, I did not.
You did go home, however, to an apartment you shared with another girl.
Yes.
What was her name?
Rolene Wood.
She was a good friend of yours, wasn't she?
Yes.
What became of her? Do you know?
No. We lost track of each other about a year later.
Now, let's get back to the night in question. Later that night, when you thought Rolene was asleep, did you slip out and murder Dan Bryan with his own gun and leave it there?
I certainly did not.
Then when you got back, you found Rolene
I
awake?
never left the apartment.
Your Honor, I object. He's trying to trap the witness. He's assuming something she's already denied.
Objection sustained.
All right, you didn't leave your apartment. You're sure of that?
Absolutely.
Now, Mrs. Collins, the truth, if you please. You did leave your apartment, didn't you? Didn't you?
Yes.
And you took the gun with you and killed Dan Bryan. And Rolene Wood knew it. She knew it, didn't she?
Yes. Yes. Pat Sheldon! You are Pat Sheldon! You are Pat Sheldon! They told me you were dead! Dead, but you're alive!
That girl couldn't testify. Pat's hanged herself. That lawyer's trapped her.
Mr. Prosecutor, I recommend that this woman be held to answer for her crimes.
What can you say to a man who saved your life?
All you can say is thank you. It's not very much.
That's plenty. Something bothering you, Pop?
Yeah. I was wondering, could the public defender's office, when the budget allows it, of course, could they use a one-arm investigator?
Well, they might. That depends. Just who did you have in mind?